It's nefarious, man. Like, the brain works in fucked up ways.
The mind is one of the most deceiving, manipulative pieces of equipment, flesh, human bodies on earth. I never have trusted my brain.
All of that weight lives in your head, and you are the decision maker.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
Hi, it's Kaylee. If this is your first volume, welcome. This is a weekly series where we go inside the mind of an entrepreneur, artist, athlete, academic to decipher what is the psychology of our decisions. I'm Australian, and I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, and community. I pay my respects to them and their cultures, and to the elders past, present, and emerging of the land I'm standing on today. I extend my respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who listen to this. In today's volume of the Psychology of Entrepreneurship, we're going to be revisiting volume 27, where Ronsley had an eye-opening chat about the wonders of meditation with the author and founder of Ziva Meditation, Emily Fletcher. We've done a few of these revisited volumes now, but if you're new to the concept, we're going to go through volume 27 and tie in clips from our other guests from previous volumes to see just how everything ties in together. And believe me when I say this topic has come up a lot. If there's one thing our guests have recommended more than anything over the course of this series, it's that meditation is a key ingredient in helping entrepreneurs keep their minds sane and their goals clear. This year has been an absolute mess for most of us. So whether you're an entrepreneur or not, you'll benefit from the wise words of the meditation guru that is Emily Fletcher. And maybe even be convinced to give the practice a try. But I'm going to stop talking now and let Ronsley get on with it.
Hi, it's Ronsley. Since we've last reported, the number of COVID-19 cases have gone up by over 600,000 new cases. That's 600,000 new cases in about a week. And by the time you listen to this a week later from today, this would be old news. But for the record, this was the latest from ABC News Australia, Saturday, the 11th of April, 2020.
Hello, I'm Jeremy Fernandez. The coronavirus pandemic continues to change the very fabric of modern life. But for the first time this week, Australian authorities have been able to point to encouraging figures that show severe restrictions are starting to have an effect. The number of daily new cases across the country has fallen below 100 for several consecutive days. A large part of that is down to fewer overseas travellers who had previously made up a large proportion of those numbers. Now that there are fewer people coming in from overseas, we're getting a figure that reflects proportionally more community transmissions of coronavirus among local carriers. The Health Minister, Greg Hunt, says although the signs are good, strict measures will continue for some time.
The virus does not take a holiday. Therefore, none of us can relax in what we do. This, in many ways, is the most important weekend we may face in the whole course of the virus. If we can lock in the gains that we've made as a nation through the courage and sacrifice of those on the health and medical and policing front lines, but also through the immense goodwill and discipline of Australians, then we can help really protect Australian lives going forward and give ourselves the pathway through.
This was the last in-person interview I did before COVID-19 changed circumstances very quickly. This interview was done on the 12th of March when everything was normal and everything started to change quickly as the day progressed with COVID-19 and the spread in New York. So I was in New York, and to begin my day, my morning started when I took an Uber from Manhattan to Brooklyn to be welcomed into her home and home office.
So I'm Emily Fletcher. I'm the founder of Ziva Meditation. I'm a relatively new mom. I'm a new author of a book called Stress Less, Accomplish More. I used to be on Broadway. I was on Broadway for 10 years. Loved it. It's what I wanted to do since I was a little girl. But stress led me to having anxiety, insomnia, going gray, getting sick, getting injured.
Today we go inside the mind of a performer. I suppose context is important because Emily Fletcher was performing at the most prestigious of stages on Broadway. I wonder if she knows Mark Fisher from volume 19, who was discussing with us about making resolutions and the psychology around that, as well as
the third piece I'm sort of playing with that framework is memento mori. It's like, know you're going to die. And I think that why that matters is because I think right now, and again, real-time framework, I'm thinking like the first piece, of course, is to know who you are, right? Know like what you want to do, know what principles of life matter to you, what's important to you.
I always find food and people to be the best binder for good conversation. So the question I've asked the most in my last 1,000 or so interviews is, if you could have dinner with anyone in the world, who would it be and where would you have it?
Okay, so Bora Bora. This is the most beautiful place I've ever been. I'd love to have Oprah, Marie Forleo, Richard Branson, my husband, my son, my mom. I'd like my mom to listen in. Mark Hyman, love him, dear friend and Ziva graduate. Who else? Obama. Yeah, that's good. That'd be good.
Wouldn't you just love to listen in on that conversation? Emily, you were saying how stress led you to have anxiety, insomnia, going gray, getting sick, getting injured. Is there a happy ending? Happy ending.
Found meditation, cured my insomnia on the first day, stopped going gray, didn't get sick for 8.5 years, started enjoying my job again, and just thought, why does everyone not do this? Left Broadway, went to India, started a 3-year training process to teach. Since graduating, I've taught 20,000 people to meditate, opened up a brick and mortar studio in New York, created the world's first online meditation training, which is now called Ziva Online. The book has sold over 50,000 copies in less than a year, just came out in paperback. And now the thing I love the most is being a mom to Jasper. It's the thing that brings me the most joy. But the thing I'm most excited about with Ziva is that we're in the process of creating a kids meditation course. And I think it's going to be the world's best kids meditation training. We're working with Emmy Award-winning writers from Sesame Street. We're building our own puppet. It's going to be 3 different age ranges. We're working with Dr. Shafali. We're working with Harvard child psychologists. Like it's going to be really, really good. And I think the world needs it and is so ready.
The world is so ready. Emily, what kind of results do you see for the ones who haven't really witnessed meditation or mindfulness for that matter?
The thing I'm most proud of, and the thing that brings me the most joy, is getting emails from my students every day or posts in our Facebook groups that are like, hey, I haven't had an anxiety attack in 3 weeks. Hey, I started writing that book. Hey, I lost 20 pounds. Hey, I reunited with my mom who I was estranged with. Hey, my daughter and I are speaking after 10 years. Hey, I got off my meds. Hey, I started therapy. I hear this all day, every day. We have a doc, a spreadsheet with many different tabs with over 1,000 testimonials. I actually hired someone full-time to manage our testimonials. That's how many we have. And they just keep coming in, like just to organize them and to put them into categories and types. Like that is probably the thing I'm most proud of. And it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with them committing to the practice. But I am very good at communicating this stuff. Like there are people who are better teachers than me, and there are people who are better on camera than me, but there's no one who's as good at both as me. So I'm very happy to be meditation's ambassador.
Committing to meditation really does seem like the hardest part. But with all those testimonials Emily was talking about, it's obviously worth the effort. In one of our more recent volumes, Luke got into how important meditation is for him to start his day, and even gives us some useful tips on what he does when he isn't really in the mood for it when he wakes up.
Everything is routine for me, whether it's the time I wake up, my meditation. I can't start my day without meditation. There's no doubt about that. That centers me. But there are some days where I don't want to meditate. I just don't feel like meditating at all. But I still use that time to sit over there and maybe read a book. I may not meditate, but I want to keep that time, which I've slotted out for meditation, so it doesn't get confused.
We've talked about the benefits of meditation loads of times throughout this series. We know that it can reduce stress, depression, and anxiety and make you feel more focused. But in case you weren't already convinced that it really does improve your lifestyle, here's just a few things that meditation can do for you that you might not have considered. It can slow down the progression of neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's and dementia. According to a study done by the Beth Israel Medical Center in Boston, there's a link between meditation-induced stress reduction and slowing certain neurodegenerative diseases such as dementia and Alzheimer's. Over the course of the study, participating Alzheimer's patients showed a slower progression after 8 weeks than patients who did not participate. It can also relieve pain. Meditation as a painkiller works by calming the somatosensory cortex in the brain while inciting activity in other parts of the brain. Research done by the Wake Forest Baptist University found that meditation has the power to decrease the intensity of pain by 40% and the general unpleasantness of pain by 57%. Comparatively, morphine and similar painkillers reduce pain by only about 25%. And if that wasn't already enough, there have been countless studies conducted suggesting that meditation can play an important role in helping those that are struggling with addiction.
Some of the things we don't value often is our beliefs and patterns. What are our current beliefs? What do we defend? What belief don't we like being challenged? What patterns have we created to avoid those beliefs being challenged in the first place?
Well, I'm a very firm believer that heaven is right here, right now, inside of you. It is not a destination. It is not a place to get to. There are no gates. The only gates are self-imposed or internal layers of stress. But now I can very clearly say that heaven for me right now is playing with my son and hearing his pure laughter and like moments where my husband and my son and I are all like when they're wrestling or he's feeding the dog Cheerios and just squealing with delight, like the purity of his laughter is visceral proof to me that we are all born perfect. We are all born happy. We are all born in full, complete bliss. And our only job on this planet is to undo all of the stress and trauma that is keeping us from experiencing that 24 hours a day.
What would total bliss feel like to you? What would have to happen around you for you to feel that bliss? And how realistic are those expectations? I digress. Emily, meditation is like a whole bunch of woo-woo stuff, right? How can you get stuff done if you're sitting quietly in a corner pointing out the obvious in and out motion of my breath?
So look, this is my whole career. This is what I've written. I've built a whole business on it. I wrote a whole book about it. And it is, the message is stress less, accomplish more. I am taking the very powerful medicine that is meditation and I am wrapping it in some delicious candy coating of like, hey, this is going to help you make more money and you're going to have better sex. And oh yeah, you're also going to be less of a dick. So it's like, why would you not do it? So I'm just framing it. I'm just helping people to move towards the positive, to see that the less stressed they are, the more productive they will be, the better their lives will be, because we all at the end of the day just want our lives to be better. So even if you're not aware of your level of stress, even if you're not aware of the trauma or, healing that needs to happen internally, everybody wants better sex. Everybody wants more money. Everybody wants better sleep. And then, so my job is just to be the gateway drug. My job is just to get people in the door. Just start peeling away the layers of stress. And then usually when people want to go for more advanced knowledge or really, look for enlightenment or get into higher states of consciousness, I do offer those trainings, but oftentimes people will go to other teachers, or if they're looking to really have meditation be a part of their identity, I'm not their teacher necessarily. I'm just, gateway drug.
And Emily, from a meditation standpoint, what does the science suggest?
This is different from Ziva meditation, where you're giving your body rest that's somewhere between 2 to 5 times deeper than sleep. Okay, and that's not insignificant because of the rest piece that I just said. When you give your body the rest that it needs, it's healing itself not only from stress from today, but all that stuff we've been storing in our cells from our past, and maybe even what we've inherited.
I'm not going to lie. Getting 2 to 5 times deeper rest than when you sleep was a major selling point for me when I first heard Emily say it when this interview was originally recorded. That sounds unbelievable. It's crazy what meditation can do for you and your body. Back in volume 38, Hal Elrod told us how he used meditation alongside other healing practices to cure his cancer. Yes, you heard that right. Cure his cancer.
I did my miracle morning every day. My miracle morning was focused on healing. My affirmations were focused on healing. My meditation was focused on healing, right? I would meditate and just feel every cell in my body. I would imagine it just perfectly, just healing. And I read a book by Dr. Bernie Siegel, who I had on my podcast last week. It's called Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And he said the most powerful force available to a human being to boost your immune system is unconditional love. So I would just, in the morning, I would meditate on feeling of unconditional love for my body, for everything. And I was grateful. This is a really important piece. I made the decision the day I was diagnosed with cancer, I made the decision that cancer would be the best thing that ever happened to me, which meant it was my responsibility to figure out why that was, to search for what it was about cancer that I could learn from, that I could benefit from, and that I could help other people with, right?
You know, I've seen the papers that we're inheriting stress for at least 2 generations. I've heard 7, but I can only find scientific papers that we're inheriting it for at least 2, right? So that means that, you know, if your grandparents were slaves or descendants of slaves, if your grandparents were in the Holocaust, this is legit trauma that you have to deal with. You've inherited the blueprint for your health, but you are the architect, right? So we gotta take that seriously.
All these outcomes sound amazing, but I suppose just like the alcoholics who know they need to stop drinking, to the overeaters who know they need to stop eating, we always have the steps, but something stops us.
Well, we do have to find a teacher that resonates with us or a message that resonates with us. Otherwise, it falls on deaf ears. And yes, we have to be ready. I mean, the old adage of when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, whatever that teacher is. But I would say a huge amount of people staying and suffering is the fear of the pain of healing. You know, nobody wants to feel their feelings. We've been trained since infancy. Shh, don't cry, have a bottle. Shh, don't cry, have a snack. Shh, don't cry, have a toy. Don't cry, don't cry. You're fine. You're fine. You're okay. You're okay. You're safe. You're fine. You're okay. And so we've been literally trained since infancy not to feel our feelings. Don't feel fat, have some Spanx. Don't feel lonely, have some Facebook. Don't feel sad, have some Zoloft. Don't feel angry, have some Xanax. Like, don't feel. There's billions of dollars of industry built on top of ensuring.
So what happens when we start learning how to feel our feelings? In volume 16, Darren O'Lean let us in on how sitting in his feelings when his house completely burnt down in the California wildfires led to a moment of hope and clarity, presenting him with an opportunity to move forward.
And what occurred for me was I moved through that pretty fast because I did just say, okay, let me feel all of it without putting a judgment on it. Let me feel it. And then through that, I'd have these moments, these sparks of absolute fucking amazing clarity. It was like a shooting star would shoot by my grief, and I'd be like, oh, fuck, what was that? And all of a sudden, I just have more and more and more of those shooting stars through my grief. And I'm like, oh, I'm starting to have visions now. I'm starting to see my property. I'm starting to feel what it's like as a result of this. I'm starting to understand what I'm going to do on the property. What is the opportunity that is presenting itself as a result of completely going through this grief.
And what I teach makes the feeling non-negotiable. It's going to wring you out. So all the stress, all the trauma, all of the stuff that's in there will come up and out. And I would say 99% of people's real resistance to meditation is that. It's the fear of the healing. It's the fear of feeling those feelings. It is not that they don't have time. It is not that they are too busy. It is not that they can't sit still. None of that. Those are all BS excuses. No one can sit still until you actually learn how to meditate. I mean, I'm a meditation teacher. Before I had this practice, I could tell you the most amount of time I ever sat still, 45 seconds, maybe 3 minutes, where I wasn't reading, writing, planning, exercising, watching TV, listening to music, but just being. I'm going to give most people 3 minutes max. So people are like, oh, meditation's not for me. I just can't sit still. BS. You don't want to feel your feelings. You're terrified of what your mind is actually saying. You're terrified of, for most of us, the volcano that is just waiting for a moment to erupt. And that's why a lot of people are so scared, because if they even dip their toe into the emotions, they know it's going to be a volcano. And so what the meditation does is that it just slowly, like It sloughs off the old dead skin. It's like it's exfoliating the callus. And people are scared of that as well. They want those calluses. They're like, I need that armor. I need that protection around my heart. If it softens, I'm going to feel too much. To which I say, you're feeling anyway. That pain is there anyway. And my sweet boyfriend in high school, he wrote me a song and it said, there's more room on the outside. It's like, what are we doing holding it all inside? It's making us sick. It's making us stupid. It's making us slow. It's wasting our mental and physical cycles. And if we let that stuff up and out through meditation or therapy or ayahuasca or exercise or whatever your path to healing is, it doesn't have to be meditation. For most people, meditation is a foundational component of their healing process and usually makes all those other modalities more effective. But if we use these tools to get the stuff up and out, there really is more room on the outside. And then your body doesn't have to hold on to it via extra weight or sleep issues or chronic disease or pain or however it ends up manifesting on the physical plane.
Meditation in different forms have been amazing for me. Recently, maybe 3 weeks before the coronavirus went mental across the globe, I reconnected with my mom after 3 years. And the point of change was definitely in between a meditation, because I remember stopping and sending my mom a message.
First of all, I'm so happy that happened. I'm so happy you reconnected with your mom. I can only imagine the ripple effect of healing for both of you that will happen from that reunion. So bravo. Thank you for doing that healing, right? Like you're even seeing now, you heal yourself. This is going to help heal your mom. This is probably going to help heal your whole family dynamic. It will heal generations to come. So people are like, oh, I don't have time to meditate. It's like, what the fuck else are you doing, first of all? This is your brain we're talking about. And also, this is the least selfish thing you could be doing, because if you don't handle this, you're going to pass it down to your kids. They're going to pass it down to theirs. Like, we have to stop the lineage of trauma at some point. And so thank you. So we've talked about mindfulness a decent amount, state change, and technique-wise, this is where we're directing our focus. So any guided visualization, most of the apps out there where someone's talking you through, where you're directing your imagination to your chakras or a waterfall or whatever, it's all fine, but it's keeping you in your left brain realm of thinking, and you're directing your focus, and it's really only dealing with your stress in the now. My boss yelled at me. I feel stressed. Let me do 10 minutes of my app. I feel better in the now.
When we come back, why mindfulness is very different to meditation, and we go deeper into the world of mystical science.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
Our aim with this audio documentary has always been to build a strong community of entrepreneurs and creatives to provide a space where they can use their voice to share their authenticity with the world. As a valued listener, your voice matters too. We love to hear your feedback and ideas, so don't be shy to let us know how we're doing in the ratings and comments. If you have a message for our production team or know someone who would be a perfect fit as a guest, you can find out more information on how to share your input at psychologyofontrepreneurship.com.
Emily, at the start, you mentioned about grandparents being in the Holocaust and how that affects someone today. I'd love more clarification on inherited trauma.
Yeah, so I'm not even speaking about past life, like our own past lives, because that's a subject up for debate, and there certainly aren't any scientific papers on that. What I'm speaking about is inherited trauma, things that we have inherited in our genes, and highlighting the difference between our genes and our epigenetics. So I've heard people say that we can inherit stress and trauma from the past 7 generations. I can only find scientific papers proving that you inherit it for the last 2 generations. So this means that if your grandmother was beaten by her father or her husband, that left, it changed the genes of her child and therefore your genes as well. So that, and I do think we are now able to scientifically prove that. And we've tested it on rats. We're starting to look at it in, there was a big famine in Denmark. And then also they studied women who were pregnant during 9/11. So this is like the 2 times in modern history where we've had thousands of women pregnant during a sort of traumatic time, and then looked at the impact of that. And obviously we know that stress is not good for, pregnancy. which is why I'm such a big fan of teaching pregnant women to meditate, because just like the baby can absorb the stress chemistry, it can also absorb the bliss chemistry.
You never really know what you're holding on to until you make the effort to sit with it. I mean, Darren O'Lean just came in and said that too. But back in volume 15, Mike Brown talked about why meditating has been rewarding for him on his path to self-discovery.
I started hearing a lot about this meditation thing, and everyone's doing it, so I better start doing it too. And I've always been very interested in consciousness and how the brain works, and so reading stuff by guys like Sam Harris and Jonathan Haidt really made me start kind of going down this self-discovery path, and I found it to be really rewarding to have to sit and think about the things that maybe you don't want to, or maybe you're too scared to. It's certainly difficult work, but the gains that you get on the backside of overall satisfaction and happiness, I think are so worth it.
So, every time you're meditating, you're producing dopamine and serotonin, which are bliss chemicals, and that's sending a postcard to the baby in utero. It's basically everything you do, every meal you eat, every time you meditate, that is all sending postcards to the fetus. It's educating it on what type of world it's going to be born into. And so if there's a famine going on, then you're training the fetus to see, well, it's a world of scarcity. You have to really store up your fat. You have to prepare for an intense world. And a lot of the kids who were born to those women who were pregnant during the famine, they are now suffering from obesity. But that makes more sense. Like, we sort of get like, oh, of course, whatever happens while you're pregnant. But now we're actually we're able to prove even beyond that we're inheriting things. Now, the good news here is that this is not fatalistic. Like I said, you are inheriting a blueprint, but you're the architect. The good news is that our genetic code is not fixed. It's somewhere. And feel free to fact check me on this, but I've heard certain scientists say that 95% of our genetic code is epigenetics, meaning that they're mutable, they're changeable. So we're turning things on and off based on being in sunshine, feet on the soil, exercise, meditation, sex, healthy communication versus the opposite.
So meditation is about just being?
So it's not just being. It is a skill, and there is a very specific physiological phenomenon happening. Yes, it is a time not to be doing, but there is a very specific catharsis happening. There is an excavation going on in the style of meditation that I teach. And if people understand the opportunity cost of what stress has on them, that stress really is making us stupid, sick, and slow, that according to Harvard Medical School, it's responsible for 90% of all doctors' visits, that, most scientists are calling it the black plague of our century, until coronavirus came. But, it's another conversation for another time. But when people really start to understand that when we're stressed, our brain and body cannot help but think that a tiger is attacking us. And then it immediately goes into survival mode. And all our reticular activating system, which is this bundle of many neurons at the base of our brain, the reticular activating system is designed to filter out unnecessary information, because at any given moment, there's millions of inputs available to us, and the brain can't process them all simultaneously, so it has to filter out. So if you're stressed, when your wife knocked on the door, you immediately, like, collectors are calling, my home is at stake, my car is at stake, my survival is at stake. You went into fight or flight. There was nothing else that you could think about in that moment other than your survival. It's why your heart started racing, your adrenaline went, your cortisol went. So your body, even though it was just your wife knocking against your bed frame, everything in your body thought you were about to die. So if you think that you're going to make really good decisions in that moment, if you think you're going to come up with your most creative ideas, if you think you're going to have productive, healing conversations with your partner in that state of consciousness, you are mistaken. And yet that is what most people are living their whole lives in. We are chronically stressed. And forget about that moment of acute when you were even aware of it. A lot of us don't even know that we're aware of it. I'm sorry, a lot of us aren't aware of the level of stress that we're in all the time, like what our baseline has become. And if you are living your life in that, you're not making good decisions, you're not creative, your sleep is likely not productive, your immune system is not functioning as it was designed, your cellular regeneration is not happening as it could, your neurogenesis is not happening as it could. So it really is costing us a lot. And I think when people understand that, then they see that, oh, me taking 15 minutes to make all of those systems function optimally is not wasting time. It is not just being, it is healing in a very specific way so that I can be smarter, so that I can be faster, so that my sleep can be more efficient, so I can be more intuitive, so I can actually hear how nature is trying to use me, what ideas are trying to be birthed through me, because that's what our ideas are. They're not ours. They're not our own.
Through this whole interview, I was saying to Emily how in August I got introduced to yin yoga for the first time. And there are very few days now when I don't get at least a 25 to 45 minute yin yoga session with instructions from my iPad.
So a couple of things here. One, yin yoga, I think, is really healing, really restorative, and it's quite similar to what I teach. So just so people understand the difference, you've probably seen like the yin and yang sign, the white and the black. And so you notice it's one part of the circle is going down, the other part of the circle is going up, and they are balancing each other. So yang is what most people think of when they think of yoga, or they're like, I'm using my muscles, I'm creating heat in the body, I'm strengthening. You know, you're sweating probably in a quote unquote regular yoga class, but that's all upward energy, yang energy. Whereas yin energy is the downward. And so in yin, you're not using your muscles, you're just letting gravity do the work for you, you're opening up your spine. It's very restorative. It's cooling, it's de-exciting. And the type of meditation that I teach is very similar. It's on that yin side of the trajectory. It is de-exciting. You are using other tools, not yoga postures, not asanas, but you're using other tools to de-excite the nervous system. And the magic happens in the de-excitation. When you de-excite something, you create order. When you create order in your body, the lifetime of stress can come up and out. If we're running around in that yang energy, that excited stress state, everything is moving so quickly, the stress is trying to leave, but it can't find the exit. And so that's what we do when we practice meditation, when we practice things like yin yoga, when you do things like yoga nidra, any sort of cooling, de-exciting practice is inducing rest. Rest is healing for the body. If you get sick, what is your doctor going to tell you to do? Rest. Right? It's not going to tell you to run a marathon, swim 6 miles, and then come back here. No, rest, rest, rest. When you give your body the rest that it needs, it knows how to heal itself. And one of the things it heals itself from is stress, not only from today, but if you're doing the right type of restful practices, you can also heal stress from the past.
Yin yoga is another common practice we hear a lot about from entrepreneurs. In volume 47, Cami Nekvapil told us why she uses yin yoga to center herself.
The power of yoga is not about whether you can get your leg over your head. The power of yoga is, can you be with yourself? That's it. That's it. And we want the pumping music and we want the flow and it is, all of that is great. But I think the power in something like yin and also the yogas that have sequences. So my first yoga practice was Shivananda yoga. So it's the same sequence every time. And the yoga that I've taken up in Melbourne is Bikram yoga because it's the same sequence every single time, because you get to meet yourself in every single posture and you know what's coming and you're watching the brain saying, oh no, not that one. Oh no, not that one.
Stress affects us all in one way or another. Although it's not the most pleasant feeling, it can be used to our advantage. In fact, that's why it's there. Just maybe not for the same situations that we find ourselves in today. Neuropsychologist and author Rick Hansen states that the stress response is a normal adaptive coping response that evolved over hundreds of millions of years to help our ancestors avoid sticks and get carrots. It's natural. What's also natural though, and you see it in the wild, is that most stressful situations are resolved quickly, one way or another. The natural biological evolutionary blueprint is to have long periods of mellow recovery after bursts of stress. Modern life exposes us to mild to moderate but chronic stress constantly. Multitasking, juggling too many things, moving too quickly, being bombarded with stimulation.
But how is all that different from like me using meditation apps? But before that, here is a 6th of April report from Good Morning America.
We've got a little Monday motivation to help reboot your system, ease anxiety brought on by the coronavirus. Mental health hotlines reported 8 times the normal call volume last month. And today, New York Governor Cuomo is set to announce the New York State of Mind. It's a partnership with Headspace meditation app to provide free services for people in the epicenter of the crisis. I know firsthand, George does too, the benefits of meditation. My meditation mentor, Bob Roth, explains why it's a valuable tool to have in your survival kit.
All right, so everybody, let's just sit back comfortably and easily. And first, let's close our eyes.
Breathe in, breathe out. For many Americans, a meditation practice is helping ease anxiety during this time of uncertainty. And it's no surprise meditation apps like Calm and Headspace are seeing a spike in usage.
The mind settles down and the brain wakes up. Your body gains a state of rest deeper than sleep. It improves serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter for happiness. So it really reboots the system.
And this leads me to the second part of your question, because you said people a lot of times are doing 10, 15-minute meditations, they're doing guided stuff on their apps and they forget about it. Doesn't change their life. They're like, yeah, it was cute. It was fine. It's like a pedicure. I'll get around to it when I have a little extra time. And that unfortunately is what most people are thinking of meditation right now. Oh, that's a free app on my phone that I'll do if I'm waiting in a doctor's office for 10 minutes. And this is why I'm really educating people on the difference between mindfulness and meditation, so that we see that they are different tools that affect the brain in different ways. So mindfulness is the art of bringing your awareness into the present moment. And right now we could take 3 mindful breaths. I could walk you through a mindfulness exercise right now. It will be fine. You might feel nice at the end of it. It's likely not going to change your life. It is a state change.
For you listening, every time you learn a tactic that creates a state change in you, it is super important to pay attention to why it is being caused. And how can you change your state by practicing these methods?
Walking in the woods, washing dishes, exercising. And that's why people say exercise is my meditation. Biking in the woods is my meditation. I'm like, what you're saying is you feel conscious, you feel present, you feel aware in those moments, which is beautiful and necessary and powerful, especially in this day and age when we've all become bulimic of the brain. Mindfulness is a very powerful tool. It is the art of bringing your awareness into the present moment. But the main distinction that I want to make here is that mindfulness is very good at dealing with your stress in the now, state change. This is very different from the type of meditation that I teach, which is creating a trait change. It is getting rid of your stress from the past. It is healing you on a cellular level. It is healing you on even a pre-verbal level. And that is why I say that it creates this catharsis, that it is healing this stuff that we've been storing in our bodies. But this is where the magic happens. When you get rid of that stress from your past, this is what ushers us into higher states of cognitive performance. This is what allows us to accomplish our to-do list in 3 hours instead of 5. This is what decreases our sleep latency, which means we can fall asleep faster because your brain isn't spinning its wheels from the day. You've handled that while you meditated, so you just fall into sleep. So your sleep becomes much more efficient and then over time more rejuvenating. So the ripple effect of that can be quite profound. And really, I would say any practice, yin yoga, yoga nidra, meditation, diets, all of it, EMDR, therapy, really what we're up to is purifying the physiology. And this leads me back to the very original part of the conversation of what is heaven. It's right here, right now. It's available to you in this moment. But most of us are having a hard time accessing it because either we have some purification that needs to happen physically or emotionally. And this is why you're saying, well, when I was changing my diet, I was changing my exercise and nothing was healing. It's because likely there was a bit of emotional trauma that your brain was programmed in a certain way, and your brain is responsible for printing every single cell in your body. So if you don't change that script, if you don't change that piece of code, it's going to keep printing the same cells.
There is enough science that shows us facts about humans giving the power to manifest situations, events, and things into their lives. And also, they don't happen by accident. I'm not sure if you remember Melissa Ambrosini from volume 21 say this.
I feel truly proud that I've been able to move through what I've been able to move through. I feel truly proud that I have reprogrammed so much, because I wouldn't have what I have if I didn't. And so I feel proud of myself for continuously doing the work and showing up to my meditation twice a day, every day, getting support from counselors, coaches, therapists, psychotherapists, all the people that have supported me over the past 10 years. I'm so grateful for them.
Also, your environment dictates your successes.
We've seen it happen. You have twins, identical genetic twins, put one in a concentration camp, put the other one in a yoga studio in Hawaii. They are not going to look, feel, act, or reproduce the same at the end of 40 years. So we get it, but we're still, but that Taco Bell didn't influence me. That Jack Daniels didn't bother me. Me not exercising for 10 years, that didn't affect me. My chronic stress and watching the news 24 hours a day, that's not going to affect me. But it does. So the meditation piece, really good at creating a trait change, getting rid of your stress from the past, which is what I've seen where the magic happens, where you really start to have these leaps in cognitive performance and actually these leaps in consciousness. It's when the magic, where you start to feel like, oh, you're just in the right place at the right time. You think about your mom and call her, and then she's like, I was just thinking about you. Which leads me to the third M, which is probably the most woo-woo of the M's, which is manifesting. And I get a lot of eye rolls when I say I teach manifesting, and people are like, oh God, Emily, you want me to secret my dreams? Like, I have a job to do. I'm $500,000 in debt. I don't have time to manifest. I have to work for a living. And yes, that's all true.
Here is Oprah and Wayne Dyer talking about manifestation.
Mastering the art of manifestation. Right. How is that different from the law of attraction?
It's very, very different.
Tell me.
Yeah. The law of attraction, and I'm not here to put down the law of attraction. I think the law of attraction
and The Secret opened people up to a new way of thinking.
Absolutely.
It had its flaws because it allowed some people to think that all you had to do was think about a bicycle and there it would show up.
Yeah.
And the key word that you use in here over and over and over again in every chapter is that in order to attract or manifest anything, you have to be in alignment
with your source.
With your source.
With God.
With
you
God.
have to be just,
it's about
you have
alignment.
to stay connected to the ocean.
That's right.
You have to stay connected.
You can't just sit around and wishing for stuff.
So the basic thing that Neville taught me, and a lot of this is from the teachings of Neville, Neville Goddard, who died in the 1970s. He basically said that all of us have within us this amazing capacity to manifest and attract anything that we want into our life. So how we call it, what words that we use, we have to be able to say, in The Secret they say you get what you want, and what is missing. And what Neville said and what has come to me and what I got from the I Am discourses and what I get from the New Testament, which I read before I did this, is that you say, I will attract into my life what I am, not what I want.
Manifesting does not mean you don't work. Manifesting does not take you off the hook. Manifesting, to me, means consciously designing a life you love. It's you getting intentional about what you want your life to look like. How much money do I want to make this year? How much sex would I like to have in a month? What does my dream friend group look like? Where's my dream vacation? What do I want my legacy to be? Asking questions like that, which sounds simple, most people are not asking those questions. We're asking questions like, what should I do? What's going to make me the most money? What's going to make my dad proud? What's going to justify the $100,000 I just spent on that degree? What's going to look good on Instagram? Like, those are the questions we're asking. Should, can't, should, need. And instead, the manifesting, we're just asking one question. What would I love right now? What would I love right now? It is the simplest. You say, what would I love? That puts you into spirit. That puts you into possibility. That puts you into enthusiasm. What would I love now? Puts you into present moment awareness. Not what did I want when I was in high school, not what is going to be good for me 20 years from now when I retire. What would I love right now?
This has definitely reminded me of Volume 18, when UJ Ramdas explained why it's important to know what you really, 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 really want.
So what do you really, 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 really want? And really get that, really understand that. It's not a simple question to answer at all, but it's a deeply meaningful and important question to answer. Because if you answer that question, the rest becomes easy.
And the magic happens when you start manifesting after the meditation. You de-excite the nervous system. The right and left hemispheres of the brain start functioning in unison. You start reminding yourself that you're actually God pretending to be human. You're actually the ocean pretending to be a wave. You manifest from that place. You start to ask these powerful questions from that place. Two things happen. One, you're able to hear your own intuition, which I would argue is nature communicating to you. And two, you're able to more effectively communicate your desires to nature. And I believe it is a two-way conversation. If you look at a human brain, it splits right down the middle, 50-50. 50% left brain, 50% right brain. And the way I interpret that is that it's 50% individuality and 50% totality. It is not either or. We are not fatalists, nor are we totally, in control of or responsible for everything that's happening. If that was true, it'd be like, all right, well, I'm going to make $1 million at 4:47 next Tuesday. Like, no, you're not. So it's like, it's 50-50. And I think embracing that balance, the mastery comes in knowing how to dance the dance between individuality and totality, knowing what's your job, which is to place the order with the cosmic waitress at the cosmic restaurant, and then allowing her to do her job, which is to deliver the order which she's happy to do.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
Next week on the Psychology of Entrepreneurship, we're going to be revisiting Volume 21, when life coach and best-selling author Melissa Ambrosini let us in on her journey to changing her life and how acknowledging her inner mean girl started the whole process. When Melissa hit rock bottom, her body was calling out for help and she knew she had to make some tough changes. Today, she is a sought-after speaker, teacher, life coach, best-selling author, and host of the top-rated podcast, The Melissa Ambrosini Show. But it definitely wasn't an easy path to get her there. If you're someone who might need some inspiration to make some big or tough changes in your life, this volume is for you. We'll be adding in some advice and clips from other volumes to further back what Melissa is saying, so you'll have all of the knowledge in one place.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
I interviewed Emily because she's the founder of Ziva Meditation and is the leading expert in meditation for extraordinary performance. Emily started out performing on Broadway and has performed in big name productions like Chicago, The Producers, and A Chorus Line. She is the author of Stress Less, Accomplish More, which debuted at number 7 on Amazon. Her work has been featured in the New York Times, The Today Show, Vogue, and ABC News. She has taught meditation to 20,000 students all over the world, and I think that number keeps going up. Her students have included Grammy, Oscar, and Emmy winners, famous athletes, giant names in the business world, Navy SEALs, and social influencers. But she works with people from all walks of life, from busy mums to Fortune 500 A-listers. She is a Broadway star, a mom, and a friend.
Psychology of Entrepreneurship.
This is a Must Amplify production. Special thanks to every guest expert that has appeared on the show. Editing, voiceovers, and sound design by Kaylee Bonnyman and Tiago Vega. Guest research and content by Claire Gould and Corinne Castles. Project managed by Kaylee Bonnyman. Produced and hosted by me, Ronsley Vaz. For more episodes and where to listen, go to mustamplify.com/POE.
Hey, it's Kaylee from Must Amplify. I'm the sound engineer for this volume of Psychology of Entrepreneurship. I'm part of the team that made this production come alive. I work as a part of a global team with our studios based in West End, Brisbane, Australia. If you would like a podcasting checklist, email me at kaylee@amplifyagency.media. That's KAILI@amplifyagency.media. We specialize in finding your voice and making sure it's heard by the right people. If you are considering whether a podcast is a good idea for your business, check out our other show on shouldistartapodcast.com. Are you still listening? Here's a little gift to you for sticking around.
To begin my day, my morning started with, but to begin my day and home office. No, well, that sounds weird. Let me do this again. What's up, motherfuckers?